Committee to order. 2 p.m. We are recording the meeting on Zoom. We have no members on remotely, so we can take all of our votes. All right, any citizen request to address the finance speech today? No? All right, I lost track whether there was a set of minutes that had not been approved, or did we approve everything I sent?
Madam Chair, can I just say something before
Yes.
we begin? I just, rather than the end of the meeting, guess.
Oh, okay, you'll do it at the beginning, okay.
So I want to do it at the beginning of the meeting.
Sure,
And that is
absolutely.
to offer some congratulations on two fronts. First to our chair, who we're about to lose, who is going to become the new town clerk. Congratulations, and it's
Thank you.
been a pleasure serving with you, and you've
Thank
done
you.
great work for our town, so thank you.
Thank you, John.
And then for our new select board member, congratulations, well done. Again, it's been great to serve with you on the finance committee. I've learned a lot and enjoyed it every step of the way, and you're gonna be missed in a very substantial way, but we know where you are. So thank you for indulging me to congratulate our two alumni.
Thank you, John.
Well done.
Thank you, John. Okay, so I lost track of whether we had.
Minutes, so
approved
I
everything.
interrupted, so you were, you just, I think we got today the minutes for March 27th.
27, and I think that's all that you have right now.
Right,
And others, Molly and I have to sit down and put together a table of what else is outstanding. Okay. All right, so let's move on to annual town meeting articles, vote as appropriate. So, we'll start in order, citizens petition to rescind debt authorization. I believe we have the citizen on Zoom, if you could bring him in as a panelist.
yeah.
And just to refresh everyone's recollection, this is someone who came to one of our meetings, made a citizen, request for comment, and suggested that he speak with the select board. And, he filed a citizen's petition and spoke with the select board. Thank you, Joe. So do you want to tell us, where you are? I know you met with the, select board.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for putting me on the agenda here today. So as you know, I did submit a citizen's petition for this upcoming town meeting. It's right now article number 43. And it's a petition to rescind the debt authorization that was voted in at the special town meeting in the fall of October 2022. And the reason for that petition was that debt authorization was created for a transaction that was happening in conjunction with the Foster property purchase by a developer. And I think, as we know, this property was actually sold to a different buyer, not the intended developer that was part of the original deal. So my petition was to try to release that debt authorization and make the funds available for other town uses. After I did that, I know that the select board themselves, when I had approached them, I hadn't seen an article from the select board, but subsequent to that, the select board has indeed submitted a similar article, and I believe it's article 36. And so they're very similarly written. I did meet with the select board in one of their recent meetings. They asked me about, my petition and how it's potentially duplicative with their petition. And I was advised to also talk with the town moderator on how that could be managed at town meeting. I did do that. So I spoke with the moderator. And I think at this time, my plan is to keep my petition in. And I know we go through the articles in numerical sequence at town meeting, so we'll hit article 36 first. And then depending what happens, it could be agreed to by, I forgot what the term is, it could be consent, the consent calendar. Or someone could say question, and the article is debated. So depending on the outcome of 36 at town meeting, I may or may not make a motion on Article 43. The moderator knows that these two are similar. He does not advise that they actually be combined. But he will allow me to speak during Article 36 if that is, if someone does question it. He did advise on motions I could take on 43 should Article 36 pass as written.
Okay, all right, thank you, Joe. So, any
Yeah.
questions or comments from the finance committee?
Yeah, so correct me on procedure here. When we read through the warrant to find out if there's unanimous consent, are citizens petition subject to that same process?
I do not recall.
You know, Dave?
I believe any article can be passed by unanimous consent.
So, I mean, the only thing I worry about is whether there'd be unanimous consent on one, but maybe not on the
Not on
other.
the other. Mhm.
And I mean, I think it is a little confusing, to be quite honest with you, to have the same thing in one warrant. I mean, I will be honest, I'm a little surprised the moderator said that it was a good idea to keep both. So I'm not, procedurally, I'm not really sure what the proper way is to move forward. All I can say is, personally, I'm in favor of both.
So I think that that's what the finance committee looks a recommendation on the substance of the citizens petition, and we'll leave the procedural questions to the moderator.
So,
He's already
so then,
opined.
so then you, I assume since we haven't yet voted this, you want to vote.
I do.
So I make a motion that the finance committee recommend adoption of Article 43, citizens petition rescind debt authorization.
I second that.
Okay, is there any further discussion regarding this particular article? Hearing none, we'll come to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I will abstain. And I will abstain today from all of the votes since I am the town clerk-elect. But I will continue.
Well, I'm glad we have 5 members then.
I am too.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, sorry, it's late.
No, it's good. Okay, citizens petition authorization to expend funds for consultant for MBTA community zoning. Would you like to join us?
Sure, should I?
Yes, please. Yep, and then introduce yourself, please. And this is an article that we had previously scheduled that we had rescheduled to now pending outcome of a report, consultant report that was done for the home committee.
I'm sorry, I was.
Sorry, we had tried to schedule this earlier and then we had postponed it pending consultant report from the home committee. And now it appears the consultant report will not be available until April 30th. So if you could just explain the article,
Certainly.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's necessary.
Thank you for having us here. Gary, Jamie and Meeting House Circle, I'm a meeting member, precinct F and 60-year plus resident, but I'm not gonna tell you exactly how many.
Okay.
I'm Christine Urban, live on Webster Street, precinct E.
And my name is Ken Buckley. I live on Warren Street, precinct G.
Thank you. So, yeah,
One more over there.
we want to hear from Lynn too.
I'm Lynn Howard, precinct D, Webster Street.
Thank you.
Terry,
Terry Jamian, precinct F, Meeting House Circle. 39 years of Needham.
so this article was collectively written.
So for the same thing.
Oh,
Oh, Barbara's here.
Pickering Street,
I'm sorry, Barbara.
that's okay.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having us here. So this article was collectively written and quickly had 35 signatures, including 5 town meeting members. And in addition, several former town meeting members. We believe in the mission of more housing. We're not trying to avoid it. We're only asking, let's find out what works best for our town, which was designed and built to support mostly single-family zoning. This article asks town meeting members to vote, to follow our established process and ask the experts. And then to review the factual data and then make the best decision we can for the future of our town and for the future of our children. Once we rezone this 100 acres that's being looked at in Needham through the Home Committee, we can never get it back. Many have also expressed concerns to us that we're not following the spirit of established home rule. We're potentially relinquishing control of our town land to the state and rushing this process in advance of our actual written deadline of December 31st, 2024. I have a letter here which is on the town website. I'll pass this around. Many of you may be familiar with it. But basically it says from the state to the town manager, from the DHCD, which I think there is a new name for that group now.
DOE something, something.
HLC.
Starts with an E, correct? Thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann. It basically says, I'm pleased to inform you that DHCD approved the action plan that was submitted on, this letter is dated March 24th, 2023. And the interim compliance that the town submitted is valid until our due date for district compliance, which is 12/31/24. So I'll just pass this around.
So can you explain how this is different from what the town has already done, hiring a consultant?
Are you okay if I just go through what I have here, or do you have limited time?
We have limited
This is
time.
only 2 hours long. It's not too-
Bullet.
I'd get to the
Bullet,
summaries
yeah.
very quickly.
Okay, you got it. So basically, this article follows our town bylaw, section 1.8, providing information relative to providing voters of the town, in this case, the voters of town meeting members, with factual information. In other words, when we're voting for zoning, we're also voting for larger pipes, larger infrastructure, and supportive capital projects. Our town infrastructure was designed and built for single family, some multifamily, and some commercial. Our Director of Public Works is planning for several infrastructure studies in the next few years, moving forward with zoning before these capital infrastructure studies are completed could potentially surprise the town with hundreds of millions in unexpected expenses to support this zoning after the zoning is voted in. This proposal seeks to provide an overview of this capital liability before town meeting votes. 2024 town meeting warrant on page 14 has a letter which discusses the critical need for capital planning and the capital projects that the town potentially is looking at, and the implications to the operating budget and the burden on individual taxpayers. The firm selection here would be a company similar to the firm NV5, who worked on the Needham 2025 Growth Impact Study, which was funded and reported on in 2020. And I'm just going to hold that up. Basically, this is the introduction page of that study. And it talks about to gain a better understanding of the impact of commercial and residential growth on the town's infrastructure. The Town of Needham commissioned the Needham 2025 study. Summary of preliminary findings for demographic, economic trends, land use and zoning, water and sewer. And it goes on and talks about community growth impacts. So all we're really asking for is for this study to be updated. It doesn't have to be duplicated. The data, it's a recent study. So we believe that the firm that provided support on this is a company called NV5, which we've already reached out to, that they or a similar firm could simply update the data with the proposed own projects and the two different scenarios. So it would be similar to the proposed data from the MBTA Communities Growth Projects. I'm almost done. Thank you for your patience. So again, this article follows a long-established process, bringing in independent and unbiased consultants to study specific proposals and report back to the town to provide guidance with voting. So many folks are saying, hey, we already have a consultant. We've received funding from the state to pay for the consultant. And yes, we have the RKG consultant who has a master's degree in urban planning. RKG has created financial models showing operating costs, propensity assumptions, which citizens have already questioned. In the March 20th, there was a letter in the home packet dated March 20th that I would recommend everybody read that talks about the questioning the propensity and questioning the models of the housing consultant. And the housing consultant has said on various occasions, we're looking at operations, not capital. So this report will focus on capital. The 100 acres being rezoned in the heart of Needham, it's with that, it's our responsibility as town meeting members, which I'm a town meeting member, to be pragmatic and cross-vet RKG's mathematical calculations and assumptions with factual data. That's why we need an engineering, a technical study versus an urban planner to understand just what our infrastructure can support. I think that covers it. This really just asks us to follow established process.
So I have 4 different issues, Madam Chair. The first is, has the home committee been approached with respect to taking on some additional studies? Again, it just seems to me not the same issue as we just discussed, but it seems like we have 2 different approaches for the same problem. And while I would agree that we need to have a comprehensive review of this potential plan from a number of different angles, including infrastructure, as has been mentioned, it seems to me that would be appropriate for the home committee to undertake. So that's one comment. Second, it's not clear to me from the article who was going to do this work. And third, I'm not sure where the money's going to come from to pay for the 150,000. And then fourth, if it's going to be for public work, it's got to have to be procured. So it can't necessarily be for NB5.
Whatever the company's name
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
So those are my 4 comments. I applaud the intelligence that we're trying to gather. I think that makes a lot of sense. I just wonder if there is a better way to do it.
Okay, so, with respect to question number 1, we did have the chair of the home committee present to us. She did say that the consultant was working on operational costs and that the town would be putting together the capital infrastructure, anticipated capital infrastructure needs by April 30th, which would be included in the April 30th report. That's what we were
And
talking.
that's like a week before town meeting.
Mhm.
And I think I saw Mary Ann.
She's behind you.
And how are we doing on that?
On that report,
Yeah,
we're doing well. There's this article from the town's perspective does not come to this town meeting, right? It comes, so
Right, it comes in.
they're tracking to a plan that gets to the fall, but that is before a submission to the state, which has a 90+ day process of review.
but I
So
guess what I'm saying is this is gonna come to town meeting.
This is
So,
gonna come to town meeting,
So-
but you're correct.
what, if anything, is there any way we could have some discussions between the appropriate town folks and the citizens that might alleviate their concerns with respect to the study that's being done from an infrastructure standpoint? In other words, could we kind of bring everyone together?
So I am not on the home committee. Josh is, he may have some more insight, but it's my understanding that the petitioners are not, well, they look forward to seeing the town's data. They would like a completely independent study of all of that information. That's been my understanding.
Is that,
Independent and unbiased, exactly.
well, I would say that our facilities department is not biased. They're good town employees. I mean, I think that like any town employees, they work for a goal But I just don't like to use those types of words.
So we were referring to the town employees because they are wonderful people.
But isn't that who's working on this?
Mhm.
That's who's working on this.
So from my understanding, and what we've talked about this, do you want to address this?
Well, let's see. I agree with your assessment of the word unbiased. I think the thought is that, I don't know how, myself, I don't know how much time the town employees have to designate or work, diligently, probably the word I'm looking for, work diligently to actually peruse current infrastructure. What does it take in terms of, stormwater runoff, et cetera, which engineering firms are really geared to do. Look at, I guess, probably the science of it, the true civil engineering aspects that need to go into this. They're well practiced at it. I'm not sure that the town employees have the extra time and or experience. I'm sure they're very experienced at what they do on a day-to-day basis. I think it's more of the planning, the whole picture is really what I think we're concerned about.
And doing it for two different proposals,
Right.
which is not twice the work, it's geometric at that point.
It's a really good additive point.
So Gary, a couple, just to
Go ahead.
follow up on Jim's questions, if I could. What is, what are you expecting the source of the $150,000 to be? Is it from, tax levy? Is it from free cash? Is it to be borrowed? That's my first question, which is germane to us on the finance committee, because we're in charge of opining on the town's funds and how they're spent and where they're spent. And then how is the $150,000 number arrived at? Why that number as opposed to a lesser or greater number?
Two excellent questions. Thank you, John. So how the number was arrived at was speaking to some independent consultants. The consultants, as we know, can run up bills, invoices pretty quickly for their time. So we didn't want to be too low, we didn't want to be too high. It was a sort of a consensus that was found at the 150 level. And it may in fact not be enough, talking to NV5, to do everything that's in the proposal. But I think we're focusing on capital costs that we felt, based on speaking to some professionals, that could be enough to present any red flag issues that the town meeting members would need to know about before voting on zoning.
And then how about my first question? In other words, where are you proposing this $150,000 come from? What source?
Free cash was what we were thinking.
Okay, have you been any consulting with Dave on that with respect to, is there, or anyone else in the town, sort of operation side as to whether, there would be free cash available in the amount of $150,000 for this?
So it's a good question. So I understand that it's currently being audited, is what we've heard, the free cash. So until that's complete, we wouldn't know if this funds there.
But Dave has already done an analysis where he's made a good faith estimate of what he believes the amount of free cash that's gonna be certified by the state.
Okay,
And he has allocated that in a number of different ways in the budget, but I don't believe this 150 is anywhere in this.
It has not been factored in.
so no, we appreciate that. And as sort of amateur citizens trying to do the right thing here, we should have reached out to Dave. So my apologies there.
So, Josh, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna. So does the home, do they have an opportunity to, kind of break bread with the citizens to get a better sense of what this infrastructure review is gonna be and how comprehensive it will be and whether it would satisfy the citizens?
There's an additional meeting scheduled for April 18th, I believe. And then there's a meeting among the finance committee, planning board and select board on April 30th. At the same time, the report is due. There's currently no plans for additional meetings past April 30th. Though it's feasible that there could be.
Yeah, I guess I would like to at least see that there's an effort. I mean, I'm not suggesting that what you're saying isn't being done. I don't know. I don't know infrastructure reviews. But, you know, if the people that are in charge of doing this and have done it on a regular basis, I mean, we built a lot of things in Needham. I mean, a lot of things. Now, I understand that we usually have consultants do a lot of the work, but it's not like our town people haven't been involved in it. So I wonder if there's a chance that, you know, I don't know who's the chair of the home?
Co-chairs Heidi Brown and Natasha Spada.
Okay, well, maybe you can reach out to them either tomorrow or today. It would have to be fairly quick, even if it was an impromptu meeting, just to try and see if we could bridge the gap.
It would have to be sometime following the April meeting and before town meeting, so in that week.
It
But I was thinking,
needs to occur sooner.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking, Josh, I guess. So again, I'm a little bit naive here, but it would seem to me that the facilities people have an idea of what they're going to do. Right? I mean, they may not have a final plan done, that's the April 30 date, but they're not gonna write on April 29. I mean, so they're working on a plan. They have a scope of work. They have, you know, the touch points that they want to make sure that are addressed. If that was being communicated to the citizens group, maybe they would have a much better confidence that this independent review is being done with respect to infrastructure impacts.
I'll suggest that maybe we can roll into the April 18th meeting.
I just think procedurally, that's, you know, this should be incorporated. These concerns should be incorporated and addressed within this comprehensive group that was formed for this purpose. I'm not sure if procedurally this is the right way to go about doing it.
It would be almost, and I was thinking about this same thing there, it would be almost as if there was a warrant article here. You'd make a motion to refer back
Right.
to include study of X, Y, Z.
Right.
But that mechanism isn't available because there's no,
Everyone-
oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to note that there was a charge to the Home Advisory Committee that was created and approved on June 23rd, 2023. So it was incorporated in all the work plans for this year. And that charge does include the expectation that they will evaluate the build outs, projections, and analyses of fiscal, school enrollment, and infrastructure impacts provided by staff and consultants. So there's a clear expectation that it's a deliverable from this committee.
But I think the issue here is that the citizens don't, either are not aware of what the scope is of what's going to be delivered, or are not confident that the information that we look at is sufficient information.
I mean, I think that's a very good mission statement.
Yeah.
But that's all it is a mission statement. I would think by now, I mean, if that was in June of 23, you'd have a pretty good sense of the type of work that you're doing, some of the analyses that you found, some of the issues that you're looking into. I would think that has to have occurred by now. At least that's how I see it. I don't think it's all gonna be done in 2 weeks.
So I agree that, sorry, if I might just chime in, I think that's part of the reason that this citizens petition came forward, is that in all of the videotape meetings, there is really not an address to the infrastructure, that is, say, at any level of detail. And the consultant that was hired and met with the Home Advisory Committee said on many occasions, we don't do
That's the urban plan.
infrastructure. We do the operations, but we don't do infrastructure. And I think if Jim, I like the suggestion of at least trying to get some information from the facilities. Maybe that could raise our level of confidence, but I think this
But
particular
Debbie's
came.
point is an excellent one. How we get there, I'm not sure, but it should be done.
Right.
That should be, and I understand the mission statement, but maybe we could get, if there was more information that was forthcoming, you know, maybe the citizens would feel comfortable that at least this work is being done and that all of these reviews are gonna be conducted. I think at this point, the problem is there have been no concrete assurances that actually is gonna occur. And I'm not suggesting it won't, but I'm saying there's nothing that's telling them that it is gonna occur.
But having said that, from our standpoint, to recommend spending money, we don't know where it's coming from, we don't know
Under
exact,
whose charge?
exactly whether it's gonna be enough, what, you know, with firm deliverables, all that stuff. I can't recommend.
No, I think you're right.
It's hard
That's
to-
why, that's why this is not the right
Right.
vehicle from a procedural
Right.
standpoint. And yet substantively, I agree with you, Barry, it needs to be done.
Right. Oh, I'm in agreement with that. I'd like to think that there's openness on this committee to hear you guys and hopefully respectfully get you the information that you're looking for, and comfort level, I guess, that we're looking for, that we'd all be, as citizens, want to know as well.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern overall, just overarching, is that the whole purpose of the MBTA Act is to put control of building in the hands of the people that own the property and not really the town in the 100 acres that they're setting aside.
True. I mean, it's really more to facilitate the ability for projects that under current zoning can't be done. It doesn't mean that those projects don't come before and get vetted with all the same concerns and questions and making sure whether it's traffic, whether it's runoff, those things will come before a public hearing.
Well,
And-
but there's.
But there's-
So Barry,
there's-
I know,
when you go in as a right.
I know,
as opposed
I
to by
understand
special
that.
permit,
I
it's a whole
understand.
Yeah,
different
so I don't-
level.
No, I understand that. We had this discussion last time with the Linden Street projects, right? Saying it's the same issue.
By right, I thought meant that they are able to, within the bounds of the zone, build what is the zoning allows.
Subject to potential restrictions by the planning board, but the
Yeah.
potential restrictions cannot be so great as to make
Correct.
the project
They can't-
infeasible.
That's right.
Right, so
At
if
at least
you
said
need
that very
100,
clearly.
Right.
right, if you need $100 million of infrastructure to put the project together, that kills the project.
Right.
So that can't be a condition, but
So you can't put a condition, so infrastructure is in play, right, in terms
yeah,
of,
and I think, yeah.
so the only thing thing that concerns me most is that there's an unknown around the infrastructure, and therefore
But I
we're,
think, yeah.
with the zoning, we may be committing to hundreds of millions of dollars, don't know. That's what we're
But
trying
I
to
think,
figure
yeah,
out.
everyone's point so far has been, try to get a meeting so that this information is provided.
Mhm.
So to maybe Josh can answer, I'm sorry, man.
I'm sorry, I just had a question. So are you saying that the infrastructure projections, that would be, they're attached to an individual project? All right, so at the point the developer or whoever comes to you and says, I want to build X, who provides those infrastructure projections of what has to change or be updated or be increased? Is the town?
The town
Yeah.
reviews everything,
Yeah,
yes.
but that would be about the contractor, John, I mean, the
Yeah.
contractor needs to be able
He
to,
needs to be able to do
as
that
part of
too.
their engineering
That's
plan,
what I'm asking.
provide that, right?
Well, they're gonna show what the
Yeah.
outflow is gonna be,
Yeah.
what their, all their
And what their
use and things
solution
like that.
is to, yeah.
And then the town puts a number to it, the town puts a price to it.
Someone
They
will
will.
put a price to it,
Right,
yeah,
right.
and then,
Someone.
but then the question is, so if the project, if they have that outflow and the pipes that currently exist there can handle that outflow, the capital expense to do that, is that something the town would do because it wants the project and pay for, or would it require it of the developer, or there's forks from the road that could take place when you have that numbers? I mean, we're talking about it in the abstract, obviously, right
Of
now,
course,
but
yeah.
but I think there would be forks in the road as to which way you'd proceed. My question, and maybe Josh, is to the committee, is what is the timing? So we get a report on April 30. I think everyone's very anxious to get the report. We're gonna see maps, we're gonna see all kinds of things that have been talked about, but we haven't actually seen them. We're getting them on April 30. What happens between April 30 and December 31st?
So April 30, we get the reports, we discuss it among the boards. Essentially, the next day, we submit the two plans to the state for their review to see whether they're compliant with the state's.
The
standards.
day after we get the report?
Yeah.
Which means there will be no changes, basically.
Basically, yeah. I don't think there's, within that day, there's likely not room for changes. But there would be room for changes between then and the fall, because over the summer, the 90-day review period, there can still be meetings to discuss any potential changes. And then the planning board will get the, plans and they'll do their own review. So between April 30th and the October town meeting, there probably is room for changes. It still has to be resubmitted to the state once it passes town meeting
Right.
in October. So May 1st is not, I would imagine it's not the final version, or it does not have to be.
If there are changes made after you've sent it to the state on May 1, does that revised plan now have to be resubmitted to the state for for additional review?
Yes, not necessarily for pre-review, because the May 1st is a pre-review period, but it does have to be resubmitted for final review.
So I guess a question, I mean, that timing seems unfortunate to me. I mean, one of my greatest frustrations on this committee over all the years is we get things on the day we have to decide it, and that's just very challenging. And I see that's exactly the scenario that we're coming up to here. So I find that frustrating and disappointing, but I also, when I look at this petition, which I'm fully in support of the sentiments, I just wonder logistically, even how you would be able to get a consultant on board who could do meaningful study between now and October. And so that's I just don't see how it's practical. I understand the sentiment, I understand the desire, and I share it. I'm anxious to get the report, but I just don't know how logically or realistic is to think that you could have a consultant go through the public procurement for it, the interviewing of it, have them do their work, and then keep in line with the deadlines we have to meet December 31, and then backing there from there. So that's, the timing stinks. It's not your fault, but the timing really stinks. I just don't know how it could work.
So you understand what John's saying about procurement, it's a state
Absolutely.
law.
There's a process, yeah.
And it's a long process, and it's an involved process, where they have a whole procurement team. I work at UMass Chan Medical School, we have 20 people that work on procurement. So it's a big deal, and it takes a lot of time to put together all of the contracts, the paperwork, the addendums. As John said, then you have to post it, it's gotta go on the state website. And then people can take out, and then they submit the response, and then there's gotta be interviews, you gotta have interview questions, it's gotta be the same questions asked of it. It's a big deal. And I think, so, again, I support everything you're trying to do. But from a procurement standpoint alone, I agree with John, I don't see how you could get to a good result in this time frame.
Thank you. Just to back up a little bit, this actually came out of questions that were asked. As a newer town meeting member, a number of people asked the question, is there going to be an engineering study? And so I asked the town, and there was no really answer back, other than you could put a citizen petition in. That was the answer that I got.
So you did.
So I did. This Needham 2025 report, the fact that I'm new to all of this, doesn't prevent wishful thinking, that the data is already there when this was done fairly recently, and that the items that we wanted to know about could basically be updated with the town department input, and that there would in fact be enough time, or if there wasn't enough time, the vote could take place in December as per the state.
Okay. I think the game plan has to be to try to set up a meeting. And then-
We're more than open to a meeting.
Is it fair to state, Madam Chair, and I'll just ask my colleagues, is it fair to state that we can send a message to the select board and to home that we believe that the goals and principles articulated in this petition are worthy of strong consideration and should be part of the package? Can we send that message?
Sure.
No question.
Engineering versus housing.
May I ask one very brief, it's a brief question. The answer may be that you can't answer it briefly. Is there in the rules of procurement an ability to ask for an addendum or update to the existing report?
It's called sole source justification.
Yeah.
So there is a process within it's not easy to do. You have to prove to your procurement team and to the council that's involved, like our town council over there, that what you're trying to do can't be accomplished by any other means, and therefore we want to pick this particular vendor. So it does exist, but it's by far simpler easy. Because if there's a challenge, that anyone can challenge your decision or the town's decision to be a sole source.
Is it sufficient reason to say we have a time crunch? And therefore,
No.
okay.
You have to have both time crunch, and this is the only entity out there that can do it.
Well,
So-
I would say from my own viewpoint that if we get this report on April 30th and it's deficient with respect to engineering and infrastructure, I would very much be inclined if someone brought it forward to come to us for a reserve fund transfer to engage an engineering firm as an addendum to the report, to do a study, to include that so that we have that information and it'll be part of the robust discussions that we'll have next fall, both with the planning board and with town meeting. And the finance committee would be available to act on that if it was brought to us immediately, and the funds could be ready immediately, and I think that's.
But there's
So, but-
plenty of money
so-
in there now.
Right, but so, but if that report comes back and it doesn't address those things, there's a vehicle there. That we could go forward and do that. It sounds like this firm wouldn't, whoever they're using wouldn't do it because they sound like they're urban planners, but they can do it as, hire a consultant, their own consultant to do it, or we could do it otherwise, but I think. I think there'd be a vehicle there to do it because right now we're talking hypothetical, we don't know
Right.
what that report is gonna look like, but if it
Right.
comes in on April 30th and it has those deficiencies, which. I think you might bet will be there, then, that's a vehicle that we could explore. And I myself, at least from where I sit in this committee, would be very open to that.
But there's also information, I mean, we do have information about our capacity, and, I mean, there's a warrant article to allocate a significant amount of money to upgrade. For example, one huge section of sewer, correct? So it's not that there's not knowledge base within the town for what we have, and potentially, that could satisfy much of what. Well, I appreciate, it will make you feel better to have somebody outside the town do it. I guess I share Jim's view that I think, the resources we have in the town are not insubstantial or unknowledgeable. And, I think, again, it can be addressed procedurally in a more effective way, maybe through the reserve transfer process, and this is not the appropriate one, and given that, is it all right? I don't know if we want, I don't think,
I think we should wait until after April 30th.
to vote on this article?
Yeah, it may be, I don't know how, I'm hoping there'll be some great success and some great collaboration, and maybe the citizens will make a decision that there is a better way to proceed with this.
But even if whatever conclusion we have, I think it can be addressed in a more effective way as opposed to this. That's
I
my
agree.
point,
I
which
agree.
is why I'm prepared to vote on this now.
The only thing I'm concerned about is I don't want to send the message that we don't want this work done, because we do want it done.
Fair enough. Okay, then we'll wait.
Okay.
Is there an avenue and how would that be, not with this group, but I don't know if it's through Josh or own committee, is there an avenue to try to have a meeting, maybe two, but a meeting prior to April 30th?
You
Yeah, that's what I thought,
have two
yeah.
select board members here one of which is on the committee that you can
Okay.
help, you should be able to help make that happen.
I had asked the select board chair if we were able to get the raw data from the departments as it's being generated. And I wasn't sure of your answer. Thank you for your email with that, but I didn't quite understand, other than to request it from the planning board, a planning at.
Yeah,
Need a
that's
minute.
outside of our
This is a select
sphere,
board.
yeah. Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming and for hearing us.
Thanks for
I
all.
appreciate your concerns, actually.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is amend general bylaws, technology advisory board. This is Article 40. As I understand it, the technology advisory board has reviewed the language, has made the changes that they felt were necessary to the language.
That is correct.
Okay,
Is there financial implications? Is it that?
well. Yes, because it changes basically the bylaw with respect to how, the technology department is structured. And so, yes, we do have the budget, operating budget change as well as a warrant article. That all these things go together and they've all been assigned to you, Barry. Just so you know.
Okay. Again, well, it's sort of like moving, you're just shifting boxes on the ship from one part of the ship to the other part of the ship. It's net, there's no net new financial obligation.
That's not true. There's a whole warrant article with the whole net new financial obligation.
Incremental.
Yeah,
That's the movement of IT from Dave over to school.
right. And then,
No, but incremental for the town, is there, we're not are we incrementally creating more? Or
I forgot what article number it is.
It's a different way of delivering the service, and there will be incremental
okay,
costs associated. And those costs we're gonna come regardless.
regardless.
We're trying to control it. So to the point, is there a financial ramification? Yes. If we didn't do it as financial ramification, yes.
There is a delta. I think even the
Okay.
school department said, if I'm not mistaken, that they actually, I think, replace their computers sooner than you do. I believe the replacement schedule is different. So, what does it mean now when they're gonna take over everyone's computers? I don't know. Maybe they're gonna use the old their schedule as opposed to ours. I don't really know.
Okay,
So, but the only thing, Madam Chair, that, I just wanted to make sure that with respect to our general bylaws and anything in the charter, is there anything that is being done differently? And if so, I guess I'd want to know what.
you mean,
Well, maybe I'll. Mary,
Do you
you're
have a
here.
red line version?
Yes, we do. And unfortunately, it's not in there. Most of it is taking out all the processes associated with being part of the finance department. And some redundant language about security and such, and retain the section specifically to having a technology advisory board. It's essentially the same language today that these sections show. There's been updating in terms of wording.
What about the security aspect? So that, I mean, I see it's in here under subsection D.
It was the section referring to data confidentiality and such, and that's covered under state law and covered under other
93H.
Yeah.
so, Council, one question. So Dave, there is an existing bylaw
Mhm.
with the technology advisory board that is set up, and this simply replaces the existing bylaw
Correct.
with a new, setup, I guess. And who takes ownership within the town of the technology
Correct, to
department.
remove the requirement that it be part of the Department of Finance.
Right.
And it retains that there is a citizen advisory board.
So that's new.
No.
No.
that Citizen
Oh,
board
it
exists
retained.
today
Okay.
and retains it. The language that you see here was A draft was sent to the committee actually worked with it, did some,
Okay,
wordsmithing with it, and then that's what, was, put into the warrant.
I make a motion that we recommend adoption of Article 40, amend general bylaw technology advisory board.
I second.
So was there anything regarding where the budget for the technology department would reside, or it simply was under the finance department in the old bylaw?
Oh, it said that it would exist in the finance.
The budget would exist in the finance department, so it addressed the budget.
And
line
and
as
that's
well.
part of the reason we had to make the amendments in order to do what is being presented to town meeting and having the money appropriated to a different line.
so in the old bylaw, that's why it was really wants to change. Could.
But the other aspects of the bylaw remain. This
Right.
is just 2.2.6.
Mhm, mhm.
No, everything was deleted except for the technology advisory. board. Like all the other aspects of the bylaw were deleted.
So 2.2.6 was just simply one.
Yeah, one is bylaw.
2.6 is the bylaw, which is longer and we're condensing it.
Right. And the only thing I was concerned about was whether or not we still had language in there with respect to confidentiality, with respect to cybersecurity, with respect to,
And that's all covered under, state law.
right. Fine, I'm content.
Okay. Whatever. Yeah.
I second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, come to a vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Okay. Moving on to debt service stabilization fund, so this one still has no dollars. Okay. Any news on when they might be certified?
My understanding is, by next week.
Okay,
So we're gonna move on this.
I don't know how you can move on. it.
No, I mean,
And right.
in other words, defer.
Defer, what, do you have a goal for overall for the debt service stabilization fund?
The, it would, make sense to have a debt service stabilization fund that could fund times of extraordinary debt levels if they were to arise of 1 to 2% for a period of 3 years.
So $4 to $5 million.
Mhm.
Okay,
And when you say that, you're talking about when we get beyond 10% within our debt
No,
financing plan?
no, 3%.
Oh, the 3%?
Either or.
Either or,
Yeah,
because if the 3% was pushed up to 4,
Right.
inevitably, you're also pushing up to 10%.
Right, okay.
So indirectly, you are.
So it's just relief. You're giving relief so that you can try to get these numbers closer to our actual debt
it's
policies.
a way of smoothing out.
Yeah.
So 3 years of 1 to 2%, you're talking a cumulative over $10 million?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct, and that would be an ideal level to ensure, because you don't develop a fund for a one-time event. It's if you're in
no,
trouble. you're in
I'm in
trouble
total
for
agreement
several
with you,
years.
and I think, I think having this. And just a comment that this should become a fairly high priority, particularly in the next couple of years as we think about free cash. Given what we know is coming and we've talked about and what we can all our hard work with.
With them revising.
But
You
yeah,
have a couple
But
years.
remember one other thing. I mean, I know we all know this, but I'm just gonna say it. I feel better about saying it. The free cash we're using pretty much right now, some percentage, whatever Dave says is,
no, I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
yeah, naturally reoccurring for the operating
Right.
budget.
Mhm.
And then we're using the rest of it, free cash to buy whatever, free cash, capital items. Now you're gonna have a third bucket.
Mhm.
And the third bucket now is to go to your debt service stabilization fund, which I'm not against, but it means there's gonna be less money somewhere else. Either less money to fund an operating or less money to fund cash capital.
Mhm.
Now, it may be, as you say, Barry, that it's a worthier goal, it's a better goal to be able to start putting money aside for the debt stabilization fund, recognizing the amount of capital projects and the debt we're gonna incur. But everyone just, everyone on the other side needs to understand from a spending standpoint, it's gonna be different.
Totally agree.
Well, we understand. I'm not sure anyone else will.
Very gratified.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, so until there's a no. If we can vote it. All right, so moving on to, those that were previously presented and potentially ready to be voted. The first two, deal with the Linden Chambers zoning violations. Everyone satisfied that questions were answered?
So I think the questions were answered to the extent that they could, or that they wanted to. I think there's still questions, but I think the problem is that what we're really gonna deal with is a desire to rebuild that area and a desire to make that place, treating our citizens the way they should be treated. But at the same time, recognizing that to get the people to come in and invest in it and get the tax credits, it's going to mean that that place is gonna be bigger than we ever would have expected. Higher and more dense. And that's a trade-off. And I can't give you an opinion as to, he mentioned the sweet spot. I don't know where the sweet spot is. But I think they're the professionals. And so I'm inclined to support the project. Because I think that if we don't, or if we put up barriers that might be a disincentive for people to invest in the project, it won't get done.
Don't let good get in the way of being perfect.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I that's kind of the conclusion I have listening to it and appreciating all the complicated moving parts. Again, this is zoning, not the actual project that we're voting on.
Right, but it's the same thing, once you,
Right.
Well,
No, the project is known, actually, so.
well, but we went over this at length.
Right.
It could be 276, I think, was the
Under-
actual number of units. And it's only 150 now. I mean, I know, I'm just stating, I'm repeating myself, but that's almost a double. That's big. It's a big change, but I still support it, so, I will make a motion that we recommend adoption of Article 18.
And 19.
Do you want them together?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
it's the
can.
math that goes with
Okay.
it.
Article 18, amend zoning bylaw affordable housing district, and Article 19, amend zoning bylaw map change for affordable housing district.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. Come to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? And one abstention. All right. Moving on to amend zoning bylaw solar energy systems.
And this is still, this is still, have the wrong title.
Yes,
right?
it does, but we're pretending it
I
has
don't mean
the
to be
correct
critical.
title.
I'm gonna put solar right here. Solar. So,
And again, what do we, from a financial perspective, I'm just curious, what is it? How do we?
I think it's very complicated from a financial perspective.
From the town's perspective, right? From not an individual homeowner, but from the town's perspective.
Well, so from the town's perspective, having solar on commercial and industrial property is a positive.
Right.
It is neutral on residential.
no, unless we could figure out that the property value went up. And if the
Or it
property,
could go down.
or, yeah, you're right. We don't know.
We don't know.
Right. Well, anyway, John, you're the one that usually weighs in on these no financial implication. What's your view on this?
Well, so I have two views. I have one view as a finance committee member and then one view as a town meeting member.
Yeah.
As a town meeting,
Well, yeah.
I mean, as a town meeting member, I'm not in favor of this, but as a finance committee member, I do think it has implications. some of which could be positive, some of which would be negative, so I think we should take a position on it. And as a finance committee member, I'll support it going to town meeting for town meeting to act on it, to vote on it. But I do think it does have financial implications.
Going to town meeting, whether we, vote
Yeah.
yes or no.
So John, what would you say if I said to you, I can't stand the fact that we're gonna have stuff on the ground, you know, on the cement blocks, like you had made a very good point. What's the front yard, side yard, back yard? The guy who lives next door, you know, is looking out, he sees this. So I can't stand that aspect of this. But that's a personal view as opposed to it being a fiscal view.
Right.
So I think is what you're saying, you're gonna support it. Because you think it has a financial implication and town meeting should weigh in from their own personal, we shouldn't take it away from them.
Correct.
Particularly with, as it pertains to commercial properties, there should be encouraging
Mhm.
the use of solar.
I agree with that. Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we recommend adoption of Article 20, amend zoning bylaw to allow solar everywhere in the world.
The financial implication was clearly stated. Karen seconded the motion. Any further discussion?
I just can't wait to join this committee. Don't put that in the minutes.
Okay, coming to a vote, all those in favor,
Aye.
any opposed? And one abstention. Okay. So now we get to the actual Linden Street redevelopment project and use of a little over $5 million of CPA funds to help fund this project.
So
I'm assigning them all to you.
oh, that's great, I'm so grateful. I think, I kind of, I'm not even gonna give the same speech, I think it's the same, my same sentiment as with the other two. I think they did as good a job as they could have. I don't think they have all the answers. It's still very early. I did hear, as I understand it, this is not gossip, but I heard that they are going to go out to bid.
It is a truth.
Okay,
They are going to be going out to bid and not using necessarily the Cambridge Housing.
right. So that to me, I thought was an excellent
Mhm,
procedural step and a good government step.
that's great.
And I do think that, again, as Barry said, you know, I may do things differently, I may have different approaches, but there's nothing that they're doing that's wrong, and as you say, it's a good project, so I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend adoption of Article 2 appropriate for Linden Street redevelopment.
I second that.
Further discussion, I do want to make a point for the minutes and for the presenter and for the two select board members who are here, that there was an MOA, potential MOA, future MOA that was discussed at, was it our last meeting or 2 meetings ago? Regarding the affordability, regarding senior housing and, you know, maintaining the history of the site.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think that's still part of
Everybody's
the
in violent
discussion.
agreement.
Excellent.
So, and I trust that'll be done before, obviously, before we get to town.
Chris, are we were gonna have a draft of bullet
Bullets,
points, I
yes.
thought, before town meeting.
Yeah.
The bullet points will certainly be drafted before town meeting. I don't see any reason why the agreement to commit to continue to provide elderly housing to the greatest extent possible can't be done before town meeting, but the actual affordability restriction itself is kind of like till a later time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but as long as there's a bullet of the expression of
intent.
intent and agreement, I
Yeah.
think that's all that matters.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Coming to a vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. All right, sewer main replacement, Article 33. Now this is one that is going to triple the debt service.
Mhm.
No.
No, not it overall, but in the sewer enterprise.
It's,
Double it. I have the numbers.
Yes, it would be a double from the low point that we were at, but it'll be close to what it used to be at 10 years ago in
Okay,
terms of that. annual.
so I think what would be helpful is, just, Paul, I think you have this one. If there's discussion, it's just talking about where we want debt service to be at in order to maintain the infrastructure at a good level, so that we don't end up with these swings. I hate swings, yeah.
And that's why.
Budget wise, it's very difficult to deal with.
Is all this coming from other articles?
Yes, they're all prior sewer articles that have been reserved that can be expended for this purpose.
So there's nothing that's coming out, there's nothing that's gonna impact, is that someone's gonna ask, is this gonna make my sewer water bill go up?
Oh, the answer is.
The answer
of course.
is yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
They're gonna wanna know that, that's my point.
Yes,
They're gonna wanna say, they're gonna wanna know, just like an average, when we have a 2.5 override, what is it gonna mean, the impact to an average single family home?
Well, yeah, we're borrowing $13 million.
So do we know what that is my question.
We're gonna have to find that, we're gonna have to get it.
Yes, we can, I have the numbers in the capital plan. I can put it to a memo as well. We're not borrowing $13 million all at once. This is a several year project. After this, there is still 2 additional phases, so we're looking close to $40 million
Right.
Mhm.
over a 10-year period.
So there's probably also gonna need, Paul, to be, you can reach out to the people in DPW, but just to get a hit, what is
Mhm.
what's the broad overview? What is it that we're trying to do, not just for this, but for the ensuing 10 years? And why are we doing it? But is it our inflow and
That's part of it.
yeah, so, all the testing that we've done and all the stuff that's, anyway.
Yeah, and it's a large area, I mean, it's a pretty big area, but yeah, it will affect
Yes,
sewer
it will.
rates.
So I recommend a motion that, the Finance Committee recommend adoption of Article 33, appropriate for sewer main replacement.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. All right. And then general bylaw, periodic general bylaw review.
I think this was the only thing, again, Marianne, that we spoke about was I was hoping that, and I don't know if this is a revised draft, but the 2 things I was hoping for were that there would be kind of a mandatory consultation. Not just, I forget what the word was, but I wanted something a little bit stronger with those other affected committees and so forth. And then the second one was that if there's anything that would be inconsistent or a change to the charter, that there'd be some other process that would be involved. That was because as I said before, I think there is some language in the charter which is borrowed and or is kind of, copied over also in the bylaws. And my concern would be that you do something for a good reason in the bylaw, but then because you did it in the bylaw, it might have an adverse impact on something in the charter. That was my concern. So something to the effect of, nothing herein shall change, revise, or amend any charter, provision or whatever, something like that. That's what I was thinking, Chris.
So I think the existing, as the bylaw is currently drafted in the warrant, it says 2 things relative to the other committees that might have jurisdiction over a particular matter. It says in 116(3) that, this is really intended to, as a review, to ensure that the bylaws remain current, clear, and well organized, and that the committee is not going to be a forum for advancing policy within the jurisdiction of another town board, commission, or committee. Then later on in section 116(5), 116(6), it says that the committee will also consult with any town board, committee, or commission having jurisdiction over any particular bylaw under review. So it in one place says, don't get too deep into the jurisdiction of another board. And then in another section, it says, if you're even touching a bylaw within the jurisdiction of another board, you have to go talk. And on the second question, The bylaw doesn't reference the charter, but I will say that it's just a matter of good practice. There are oftentimes when we're amending the bylaw and we're amending the bylaw or the charter, and we need to amend the other as a consequence. So I would say that if this committee's work gets to the point of recommending a bylaw change to town meeting and it affects something in the charter, it will, I think, as a matter of course, sort of capture both changes, or the changes that would be.
So why couldn't we say that?
I think there was, in the early stages of the working groups work to come up with this bylaw. It was, I think, an open question whether or not this would deal with periodic review of the general bylaws and the charter,
Right,
or just one or the other.
right,
It was decided that it would only really cover the general bylaws.
right.
So I think when it got down to the drafting, we wanted to draft it in a way that made clear that this committee's 10-year work cycle was gonna be targeting the general bylaws without getting into the charter.
Right, so could we say, I mean, could we say that? Could we say, you know, I'm not sure, I can't legislate on town meeting floor, but something to that effect.
We could, I mean, at this point, that would be a motion to amend on the floor, the actual bylaw itself. As printed in the warrant, can't be amended at this point.
Does anyone, listen, I'm not here to make work, so does anyone else think that it's a point to be made or not? I don't think they think so, so I guess I'll pass. But maybe.
I don't know, I just haven't studied the charter, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the minutes should reflect the concern.
Yeah, I mean, I took a lot, I spent a lot of time with the charter and the bylaws in 2004 when we rewrote the finance committee's role. And the budgeting bylaw, which, was written by a couple of us. So that's what just, I guess if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't care. All right, I'll pass. So, that being said, I'll make a, Yeah.
What are the, do we, does
Do
this
you
have a-
want to take a?
do you want to take a position on this as a
Oh.
finance committee?
Is the, I don't have my file with me. Is the budgeting bylaw, that's a bylaw.
It is a bylaw, it's
Yeah.
it's in there, so the finance.
So we gotta take a position. I mean, that's our we fought for 8 months over that. I mean, it's a big deal.
No,
No,
I am not I'm just the change, this review, this fact that we're now creating just a review, not that we have a budget bylaw. I agree that's.
but this could impact that budget bylaw.
That would be substantive,
Yeah.
which is outside the bounds of this review, but.
But if we came out and said we don't have any position on this, I don't know,
Again, well, that this doesn't have significant, well, not
there's no
significant.
cost.
Right.
But it does have an effect.
Again, I always wait, I probably view these more liberally, I guess, or. And so, depending on your perspective, I'm not sure this really does.
I don't,
but
again, I'm
I'm
not,
not opposed to
I'm
it.
not gonna die on this mountain either.
So the only comment I would make is the composition of the committee is really important. It includes a member or designee of the finance committee. I think it's important to state what thoughts the finance committee may have had regarding this bylaw review or any concerns that the finance committee may have had regarding bylaw review. And the reason is because there may then be discussion on town meeting floor, and it is good to set for town meeting. Either answer some questions or,
Well,
Yeah.
Louise, you make a very good point, because you could actually say, there was discussion about the charter being involved in this process, that is not happening now. And we think, assuming we think that that's actually a process that should be done by the moderator. And I still believe that to be the case, as it is in most towns in the Commonwealth. And we can mention the fact that, the budgeting article, which was revised in 2004, is within the bylaw. And we see that of great importance to the, you know, the future work of this body on behalf of town meeting. So, yeah, I
This
think,
body is not meant to look at those kinds of substances issues.
right. So I would make a motion that we recommend adoption of Article 38, amend general bylaws, periodic general bylaw review.
I second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. All right,
Now, the
authorize-
restrictions, is this the senior thing again?
that's a senior thing again.
So what
There
are
are four,
coming back.
we, so what are we gonna do with that? I mean, if we're saying that we're gonna have a
an MOA.
memorandum of
So if you want to
understanding,
wait until you see the bullets, that's
Yeah.
up to you.
I'd like to wait until I see the bullets.
You have this one.
Oh,
You have all of them first. I went very light on other.
you want something coming on?
I agree with that. I need to see.
You want to see
language.
the language, okay?
Jim, you're the champion of the scene.
Yes, I am one.
Jim,
I know, I'm saying that
yeah,
sincerely.
I am one.
I'm saying that's-
All, except
I'm
for
applying for
Karen,
my Medicare right now.
except for
You-
Karen.
Oh,
Karen
I
is a
feel
junior.
older. I'm a junior senior.
We got rid of our young
We
population.
did. Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to amend general bylaw, local historic district. So. Question whether,
Well, I mean, this is one where I have dual positions as
Yeah.
well. I mean, I don't think it has a financial impact and I don't think that I'm gonna vote against it as a town meeting member because I just don't think it's the correct policy and that I don't believe the select board should be involved in a single piece of property. It should be up to the person who lives there to do it. So I'm gonna be voting for that and other reasons voting against it at town meeting. I think as far as our committee is concerned, there's no financial impact on this. And so I don't think we should be making a recommendation.
Well, the only one would be CPC, but that is so hypothetical.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so I make a motion that we recommend to take no position on Article 42. Which is somewhere. I'll find it.
Amend general bylaws, local historic district.
Exactly, that was it.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mhm.
Hearing none, we'll come to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Okay, another citizens petition, we had them in, single-use plastic ban bylaw, they were going to provide us with further information, I haven't received anything further from them. I don't know whether we need the further information, it was a survey of businesses,
Yeah. I've done those surveys before.
yeah.
So can I ask my colleagues this question again? I'm against it, obviously. I didn't even get my bottles in. But, yeah, I'm not. I like this one here. This is a beauty. Local company from Worcester too. But, you know, that's again, my personal view. Is there a perceived, there is, Barry, financial,
Well, I think it just potentially makes Needham a little less friendly to business.
Mhm.
In general. And not saying it's not a worthy, on a volunteer basis, again, should it be mandated? And I think this in particular is maybe one step further than we need to go.
you know, I don't even know if I said this at the last meeting, so if I'm repeating myself, I'm my father. But, you know, the plastic bag thing, which again, I wasn't overly enthused about, but I quickly saw that, you know, it made sense because there was another vehicle. You could get these recyclable ones, you could use paper. I mean, you could get one of these things you use for 3 years until the mold grows. But, you know, there's ways you could do it.
Right.
How do I still don't understand how I'm gonna get my water? And I'm not gonna fill up that thing and I'm not gonna get this tin can.
I think more and more people are doing this voluntarily, and it's probably my view, the best, just general. Making people aware generally.
I think you're right. And by the way, you know who's one of the biggest offenders of this thing? Places like golf courses. They give out plastic bottles like it's candy. All right, in any event,
Anyway,
so I'm gonna make a motion that the finance committee recommend against Article 45, which then I've lost my place again,
What's the plastics?
and that is
Oh,
citizens petition, single-use plastics ban bylaw.
oh, the Starbucks one.
Yeah,
So I don't still copy my copy.
that is correct. You
Is
will
there a
not have
second on the
any.
motion, Madam Chair?
Second. I'll second Jim's motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll come to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Capital Improvement Fund, I asked that this be placed on the agenda because I'd heard that it might be withdrawn, and I am making a request that it not be withdrawn. That there be, even if there is only a small amount of funding available this year, that small amount of funding be placed and, if there's a question, that we talk about what we plan on doing with larger vehicles and a potential amendment of the language of the capital improvement fund.
Yeah.
But that there just be a small amount placed in it at this point in time,
So that-
whatever you have
so that-
available,
So that the finance committee can explain again the importance of it and what the use
and
of
what
it.
the use of it will be.
Okay,
But we don't know what the number is yet.
No,
so are we holding on that?
yeah, and it was just a request to not withdraw. I think the capital facility fund is planning to be withdrawn.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not. withdrawn.
And was it the select board that wanted to withdraw? Is that,
It was my.
It was Dave
observation.
Davis.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But you're okay with keeping it in?
Sure.
Okay.
We agree on the use,
We do,
so
yes, we do.
there's no disagreement on that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
And one of the special,
yeah, I think this one's just a cleanup.
this is Josh's motion, isn't it?
I know. Maybe we'll be presenting for them. Select board.
This is my 4th time doing this. Just kidding. You're on the other side now, so you get just as many bobs as anyone. So I recommend, that the finance committee recommend adoption of Article 8, amend general bylaws, fines under section 3.5.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. All right, so we get to finance committee reorganization. So today's my last meeting. Obviously, Josh is no longer on the finance committee as well. I did speak with Michael Fee. He is working on new members for the committee. So, hopefully we'll have new members joining shortly. Since I am chair, you will need, a chair for the remainder of the year. And Carol is vice chair and has stated her willingness to be chair for the rest of this fiscal year and the following fiscal year.
Can I make a joint motion? So I make a motion that Carol Smith Fischetti become acting chair following the resignation of Chair Miller. And that John Conley serve as acting vice chair for the balance of this fiscal year.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
all right. Is there any further discussion on that? John, you're good. I think you should affirmatively state.
I'm like waiting, I'm looking at you like, are you okay?
I haven't told my wife yet.
I did the same if he looks stunned by that. I wasn't sure.
I'll do whatever is needed, of course, you know that.
Okay. All right, so then, coming to a vote, all those in favor, there was no further discussion.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. No, I'm still.
Any updates, Madam Chair?
So yes, I think, Josh is the finance committee designee on a number of committees. Just one at home.
Yeah.
That was it? I thought you were on others.
I believe it's just Tom.
Oh, at this point, okay. So, someone will have to be the finance committee designee. Or I suppose Josh could be the designee, but that creates a problem for the select board because now there are 3 select board members
Yeah.
on the committee, so now it becomes a meeting of the select board.
Well, we also have to post every meeting.
Yeah, the select board would have to and home, so there is just a tiny little bit of a problem with respect to home.
Carol was on it at one point, wasn't she? Wasn't she doing some work
Carol
with
was on
housing?
the housing, she was on that other committee,
Oh,
As in working.
the housing working group, yeah.
Josh, can you bring me up to speed on it? I mean, I'd be happy to.
You'd be-
kind of try.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big, tough issue.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And if I might get, I believe meetings are only planned through the end of April, though the appointment goes to the end of December,
Okay.
in case there needs to be additional meetings.
okay.
is it a select board appointment?
No, this
No.
is the finance committee representative.
Ah.
I do expect that there will be more meetings.
I would think so.
Later this summer and fall. I mean, I think it's just going into hiatus while it goes to the state until we get feedback back, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
There's the team
Okay.
spirit.
everybody.
Great.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
I am the representative on the, whatever it was, the bylaw and charter review committee. So the town clerk is also on that committee. And I might suggest that maybe Teddy might be interested in being the finance committee representative, if someone wants to talk to her, and if you all are good with that. Yeah, okay.
I mean, is there any work to be done between now and then? It's gonna be on town meeting, right?
Yeah,
I'm not sure they'll meet again, will they?
Well, they're gonna start in twenty
Appointed
twenty-five.
in January, so I don't know that you need to
Okay.
solve it
Yeah.
now.
okay.
Okay,
I do agree that Teddy is interested, and I think there are a couple different places where conceivably she might be able to.
oh, that'd be great.
Mhm.
And we don't have to nominate.
Decide right now.
Yeah, we don't have to nominate a committee member.
No, you can just have it designated. For years, we had Ann Dermot-Erosion on the future school needs committee. Okay. All right. Then I think,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all right, all those in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna miss you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
How many years?